Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel. So this video is going to be a little bit different than my other ones, but I hope that it will be informative somewhat, but it's mostly just something that I came up with on my own. So yeah, let us get into the video. So before I really dive into what we're going to be talking about today, I am currently getting my master's in education for elementary education, and in one of my classes we talked about ACE scores, which, if you don't know what those are, it is a tally of different types of abuse, neglect, and other things that happen to signify a rough childhood. And it's about, you can take a quiz that's an ACE quiz. It's about 10 different questions and you get a score, and the higher that your score is, it means the more trauma filled your childhood was. So I took it, I got a 2 I think, which is on the low side. One of the readings that we had to do for this class, and we had to react to it, or we had a discussion post. We had to pick one of our readings and talk about our thoughts, any questions that we had, and epiphanies. And as I was reading this article, I was like, you could do a comparison between this and Jimmy Hall from At Dead of Night. And that was what I talked about. I'll have my epiphany post here. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I thought for this video that we could kind of, based on what we know, take the ACE quiz through the eyes of Jimmy through At Dead of Night, because I'm obsessed with that game. Like, I love it. I've played it like 2 times, but yeah, I just thought that would be really interesting to do. So if you want to follow more on that, we'll get into it, and then I'll also describe why I don't think that Jimmy is that, or I don't know how to word this. I don't think that Jimmy should be considered as big of a villain as he is. So let us start with the ACE quiz. So let me get it pulled up here. Question 1 is, before your 18th birthday, did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you, or act in a way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt? There are scenes in Rose's story in At Dead of Night, and by the way, this video may contain spoilers, so if you haven't played the game for yourself or haven't watched the full game through, just skip this video. So I'm going to say yes, because there's instances of Hugo, who is Jimmy's dad, yelling at him, so I would assume yes. Before your 18th birthday, did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often push, grab, slap, or throw something at you, or ever hit you so hard that you had marks or were injured? Considering that this scene, I'll try to put it here. Rose rushes in with a baseball bat to kill Hugo because he's whipping Jimmy. I would say yes. Before your 18th birthday, did an adult or person at least 5 years older than you ever touch or fondle you, or have you touched your body in a sexual way? We don't know. I'm going to say no to that because it seemed more like physical abuse, so I'm going to say no based on what we know, but that could go either way. I don't know. Before your 18th birthday, did you often or very often feel that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special, or your family didn't look out for each other, feel close to each other, or support each other? Again, this is based on assumptions. I'm going to say maybe yes. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that one. I want to say yes. Before your 18th birthday, did you often or very often feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, and had no one to protect you, or your parents were too drunk or high to take care of you or take you to the doctor if you needed it? This is another hard one because he may have felt like Rose didn't protect him in the beginning until, you know, the whole thing with the baseball bat. But all of this happened when he was 2 and younger, so I'm going to say yes again. Just because it's like through our eyes, like what we see too, so I'm just going to say yes. Before your 18th birthday, was a biological parent ever lost to you through divorce, abandonment, or other reasons? This is one that I said yes to, and I'm going to say yes here because, I mean, yeah. Before your 18th birthday, was your mother or stepmother often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or had something thrown at her, or sometimes often or very often kicked, bitten, hit with a fist, or hit with something hard, or ever repeatedly hit over at least a few minutes or threatened with a gun or a knife? I mean, that one's an obvious yes. Before your 18th birthday, did you live with anyone who was a problem drinker or alcoholic or used street drugs? Again, that's something we don't know. All that Rose said was that it was in Hugo's nature, but maybe when he drank it could have added on to that. That's usually like the biggest thing. So I want to say no because we don't know for sure. Before your 18th birthday, was a household member depressed or mentally ill, or did a household member attempt suicide? I mean, it was after his 18th birthday. I want to say yes. Before your 18th birthday, did a household member go to prison? No. So, based on that, Jimmy's ACE score is a 7, and that is pretty high. So, as you read the rest of this article, like, this also doesn't take in like genetics. Other camera died, so here we are again, back at it again with the new setup. But what I was getting ready to say is that as you read the article, and I'll have the article linked down below so you can check it out for yourself, but as you continue to read the article, it says that it doesn't take into account genetics or other situations that may have happened in your childhood, such as having like a grandparent or a teacher or someone else show you love and appreciation that may have helped to kind of offset what happened to you. And we can only assume that Jimmy did not have this growing up, which before I get further into this video, it has been kind of like shown on one of the At Dead of Night Reddits, or in development of making an At Dead of Night 2, is said that it will go more into Jimmy's backstory, which I'm super excited about. That's one thing in my first playthrough for Amy's story that I said that I wish that we had more backstory on Jimmy. So maybe we can do the ACE quiz again once that comes out based on, you know, what it says. But anyway, I just want to throw that out there. I'm excited for it. But, you know, we're only going based off of what we've seen through Rose's story. And yeah, so based on that, I don't really think that Jimmy is as bad of a villain as it seemed. Like, yes, he did bad stuff, and yes, we need to hold him accountable for what he did. But I am of the decision, or of the belief, like I said in my epiphany, maybe he wouldn't have turned out that way if Hugo wasn't the way he is, or if Rose would have stepped up and helped him, which that's a sticky situation too, because I hate telling an abuse victim, because she was part of the domestic abuse, like to get out of the situation, because I know that it can be hard based on like maybe they threatened, you know, we don't know, maybe Hugo threatened her to kill her if she tried to leave and take Jimmy with him. You know, again, we don't know that situation, but I'm just looking at it like Jimmy's perspective. If Rose would have stepped in earlier than she did, maybe he wouldn't have turned out that way. But also, it kind of made it seem like Jimmy didn't really remember the abuse that much, or because she finally explains to Jimmy like who his dad is and everything, and that was like a big epiphany moment in the game. So I don't know if he forgot his abuse, but I still feel like he internalized that somehow, like the abuse, and it played a big part into who he was. So my viewpoint, you know, again, the stuff that he did was bad. The thing with Amy, maybe he thought that he was playing with her, you know, and again, they don't really say like what age he was when he did all this. I assume that he was a young kid just like Amy, because, you know, there's some of my kids that they try to play with someone, but the other kid doesn't like it, but the one who was trying to play with them doesn't understand because it's something that they're used to. So, you know, for all we know, maybe Jimmy thought that he was playing with her. I mean, that's a big stretch, but I'm just saying, maybe. And like Rose did try to get him help with Dr. Bose, but maybe she needed to talk to him first and then try to bring in someone, or ask Jimmy if that was something, or I don't know. Like, he did need help, and she did try to bring Dr. Bose in, but maybe Dr. Bose wasn't, he was a psychologist, but maybe he wasn't really that trained with children. Maybe he needed like a specific child psychologist to help bring it. I don't know. I feel like that situation maybe could have been handled differently, but that's such a hard thing. I'm just speaking from like an educator standpoint. I don't even know where to begin with that. Like, you know, therapy and everything. I just know like from an educator standpoint. But Harvey's story. Let's talk about that, because, you know, the final scene, whenever like Harvey is stabbed with a knife, I'm gonna be honest, I was happy with it. I mean, I don't care that he was, because if you look how Harvey acted throughout the entire clip, like, he acted like a big baby, because he was like, oh, this is my hotel, get out of my hotel, this is my hotel, Jimmy. But, you know, instead of trying to talk to Jimmy about, you know, what he did was so wrong, like, Jimmy shot him with the crossbow. What did he do in retaliation? Break his PlayStation. Come on. I mean, like, or was that after the heater? I forget, but, you know, like, Jimmy did something to him, like, as a prank, so he does something back in retaliation, like break his PlayStation and all of his belongings. I mean, that's gonna make me upset too if somebody, you know, like ripped up my Louis Vuitton handbags or smashed my computer or anything, you know, that's gonna make me mad too. And then finally, what does Harvey decide to do? He locks Jimmy up in the basement. That was a brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant. 10 out of 10 would recommend. We do that with our educare kids all the time. Sir. What were you expecting when you locked up a kid? I guess a kid, maybe he was a tween, teenager, I don't know. But you locked a young adult up. What do you expect to happen? So, you know, I don't really, based on Jimmy's past, you know, maybe all of that triggered something in the back of his mind, even if he didn't expect it to, and maybe he was trying to protect himself, like Rose said. I mean, you know, that's just what we need to think about. We don't need to go directly to, oh my gosh, Jimmy stabbed someone, which again, I'm not saying that he should get off scot-free for it. Like, he should be held accountable and somebody should say, hey, you know, that was wrong. But they also need to look at what Harvey did and be like, maybe don't lock people up in rooms, like in the basement. Because what did Jimmy do? He set the hotel on fire. I mean, every action, there's a reaction or something like that. I mean, that's a perfect example of it. But, you know, that really, to me, was, you know, people just look at that, like, oh, Jimmy actually killed someone, you know. And if we're being really honest, the opening scene, Maya acted really rude to Jimmy. And that's speaking from someone with social anxiety, because they have been ignored in the past. Whenever I've talked to someone, they just go like, or just look at you like you're weird. So, from my eyes, I can see why Jimmy may have wanted to go off on Maya, because she was a little rude to him. I mean, okay, maybe she didn't want to stay up till midnight to watch his show. Okay, but just the way that she interacted with him, you know, kind of gave short answers. She was kind of rude. So, I mean, again, if you don't know somebody's backstory, for all we know, all of these things could have triggered something in the back of his mind. And I know that the developers of the game said that Hugo like possessed Jimmy, so he didn't have a different disorder, so it wasn't DID, dissociative identity disorder, and that's explained in the game. Like, there's a whole thing. I show it in my playthrough, and I pause it so you can read it. But, you know, so I'm not talking about that. I know that that's how they explain it, but I just thought, looking at the article and seeing that, I was like, huh, that would be interesting to do that. So, Jimmy got a 7, which is a pretty high ACE score. And again, once the sequel comes out and we play it and it gives more backstory, maybe that score will be higher. Maybe it might be a little lower, who knows? But, you know, at the end of the day, that is a significantly high score, especially for a young kid. And we know that this all happened when Jimmy was born up until he was 2 years old. So that is way too young for any kid to experience something. I mean, not that a kid should experience something anyway like that, but that is way too young to start for a kid. And even if he doesn't like really remember it, it's going to stick with him in the back of his head. So I hope that you learned something from this video. If you agree with me, disagree, leave a comment in the down bar, but be respectful. Like, we all have our different opinions. That doesn't mean that you have to go off and tell someone why their opinion is wrong and yours is right. You know, we can have a civil discussion down there in the comments if you have another idea about this. But thank you for watching this video. Stick around with more videos in the future, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it.